The day has finally arrived. Tomorrow is Kruella's inspection with the State Highway Patrol. The appointments took 6 weeks to get, so Kruella has been sitting in the garage while I, did other things to it, and consequently it's very dusty, and at this point it looks like a barn find. So today I am going to clean Kruella up and then do a general tour of the build. It is now time for the tour. Kruella is a kit car. The design is based off of a 1930s Mercedes, the 500K and the 540K. This particular model is a Heritage. It's made by Heritage Motor Cars, and they call it the Heritage 500K. The car was available factory built. It was also available as a kit. This particular one was a kit, and it was bought by some guy in the 90s, and he never finished it. And then he passed away, and his son-in-law put it up for sale. I found it and bought it. The gentleman was nice enough to deliver it for me, and I've spent the last 3 years putting it together. Building a kit car has always been one of my bucket list items, and I really had a blast putting this thing together. On the flip side though, in a lot of ways it was super frustrating because absolutely nothing on this car fit the way it was supposed to. Just about everything about it was a 1/4 inch off, and the 1/4 inch off was very common. That just seemed to be how much everything was off. So I had to pretty much modify everything. I had to make changes to everything to get stuff to fit. The other frustration with this car was that, even though it was new in the sense that it had never been driven, all of the parts were from 1990, and the kit included just about everything. It already had an engine. It's a General Motors Goodwrench 350. It came with tires, it came with the interior, it came with most things. There were a couple parts missing that I had to make, but for the most part it was complete. But we may as well go through those parts. One of the things that was missing was this lower panel, so I had to make that. I always thought from the beginning that this car looked a lot like the car from 101 Dalmatians, so I am calling it the Kruella 500K. I'm also doing that because I just don't really like the idea of pretending it's a Mercedes. Most people that have these put the Mercedes badges all over them and pretend it's a Mercedes. I just didn't feel right doing that. As a kit car, especially a kit car from the 90s, for some idiotic reason, even though this kit was supposed to be, represent a high-end car that, even in the 90s would have cost a couple $100,000 to, buy as an antique, it came with markers from a Volkswagen Beetle, and I hated that. So I found these. These are actually for a motorcycle. I don't remember what motorcycle. but I found them and I like the way they looked, and I like that they are not from a Volkswagen. The car did not come with these wheels or these tires. These wheels are 16-inch wire wheels. They're knockoffs. I really love them. I found them on Facebook Marketplace. The kit did not come with mirrors. It took me a really long time to understand how the original mirrors were supposed to mount. And even though I figured it out, I didn't really end up liking it, because if you Google this car and look on the internet, this car has a million lights hanging off of it. And where these mirrors are, there was actually, you know, on the kit, these side spotlights, and the mirror mounted to the back of the spotlight. And anyway, you know, one of the things I did when I was thinking about this car is I wanted to clean up the look. I didn't like all the junk hanging off of it. And, you know, one of the junky things hanging off of it was all those unnecessary lights. So I decided not to put those on, and I had this mirror stem made. These are called swan stems. And what I did is I designed it, and then I had a guy machine them out of aluminum. And then the mirror itself, that's just something you can buy, and it screws right in. The other thing I didn't like about this kit is, you know, they went nuts making it really accurate so far as the real car is concerned. And then for some crazy reason, they put these door handles on it. These door handles are from a Dodge Dakota, you know, from, I think like 1987. And anyway, they just look idiotic. So what I did is I designed and had made these false door handles. And what they do is they just kind of hide that other handle. So, you know, in photography and in just walking by, you don't really see that stupid Dodge Dakota door handle. Another change I made, just, you know, to try and clean it up on the outside, was, you know, on the running board, the kit is supposed to have, you know, these big rubber things that are, you know, screwed into the running board. And anyway, they're big and bulky, and anyway, I didn't like them. So I got this. This is actually designed for a boat. It's designed to look like teak, although it's not teak, it's PVC. But it'll do the job, and it isn't so big and bulky, and maybe you like it, maybe you don't. I like it. On the inside of the car, I didn't use the dashboard that was provided with this car. It was just so freaking ugly. If you want to see it, you know, just Google Heritage 500K and you can see the dashboard. I made this dashboard from scratch, and I designed it to elicit the look and feel of an original 500K. I was not trying to directly imitate a 500K. I was trying to make something that was a little more modern, but still evoked the general feel of the 500K. So this isn't the steering wheel that came with it. Those are not the gauges that came with it. I added that head unit stereo infotainment system, and with that I get a backup camera, and I really like to have a remote to control the radio. So this is a remote on the steering wheel. This car wasn't originally designed to have modern seat belts, so I went ahead and figured out a way to put in, you know, a modern-ish 3-point harness. So I made this attachment to go on the back of the seat. It's kind of ugly, but it works. And then I made this guide. I designed it in CAD and 3D printed it. So that keeps the belt in place, so it's nice and easy to get to. And it extends down and goes right in there, just like you would expect any seatbelt to do. But I actually like seatbelts. I feel weird if I'm not wearing them. The seats, they did come with the car and they were in good shape. The door panels, you know, I'm using the actual plastic that came for the door panels, but I upholstered them, and so they don't look anything like they would look if I didn't customize them. I had those speaker rings made, I made other trim pieces, and I covered them with vinyl, vinyl that looks like leather, and made my indoor panels, and I'm really happy with how they turned out. Down here, this car didn't have cup holders, of course, because for some reason it took 100 years for somebody to think of cup holders for cars. So those cup holders I designed and had 3D printed. And also on that console, I put a USB charger for phones. Also for the phones, on top of the dash, I have this platform where you can lay a phone while you're driving. And so that way you can turn on the Apple CarPlay. It'll wirelessly go to the head unit, and you can have your directions and phone and music and such on the head unit, and your phone has somewhere to sit where it's not flying around the car. I also made these floor mats. I don't really like them, so I might come up with something else. Not really sure. These sun visors, they are actually from an AMC Gremlin. The sun visors that came with this car, again, it was one of the parts that was 40 years old, and they were just kind of falling apart, and plus they were just too small, and I didn't like them. I guess let's walk around the back. There's not a whole lot of custom stuff back here. I added those exhaust tips. That's my backup camera. I do not have a license plate yet, but the car gets inspected by the Highway Patrol tomorrow, so hopefully I'll get a license plate. It's dual exhaust, and so that's the other exhaust tip. Let's go up front. Since I'm calling the car Kruella, I went ahead and got this front license plate made. You don't have to have a front license plate in Ohio, so you can do whatever you want, so I put that on. I also wanted to make the car a little bit distinctive, and it always had this center headlight, but just to make it a little different, I put in an amber headlight. And also, if you did bother to Google this car, it's also supposed to have horns on the front, basically those big long antique looking horns like you see on boats and you sometimes see on old cars. But anyway, it's just another thing hanging off the car that shakes around, and it, just adding to the bulk of the car. And I, like I said, I didn't want a bunch of things hanging off the car. Another item I didn't use that came with the car is the hood ornament. People put two different hood ornaments on this usually. There's a factory hood ornament that, evoked the look and feel of a Mercedes without being a trademark violation, and it's basically like a guy holding his hands up in a Y configuration, and it's inside a circle. And then some people just go ahead and buy the Mercedes hood ornament and put it on. I wanted to have a hood ornament, but again, I don't like the idea of pretending it's something it's not. So I just found this hood ornament on eBay, and yeah, it's generic, but it's pleasant looking and I kind of like it. And so I decided to use that. I can see myself replacing it sometime if I find something better. I would love to be able to find maybe a hood ornament that had a merman with a Triton, like some sort of King Neptune sort of thing, but I don't think that's unlikely. So for now, I have that. let's go ahead and take a look at the engine. Okay, the engine isn't anything super special. Like I said, it's a General Motors Goodwrench 350 from 1990 or so. I don't have any way of, well, I haven't been able to figure out the exact ratings for this engine, but it is the HO version, which means it's probably 260 horsepower. The air cleaner says Avanti on it because I used to have Avantis as my hobby car, and it happened to be the same air cleaner, and I needed an air cleaner for this because the other one was rusty, so I went ahead and used the one for my Avanti that I still had laying around. Okay, that is it for my Kruella tour. I hope you liked it, and check in every now and then for more Kruella videos.